Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle, and if you are new here, you might not know this, but I love adding little interactive elements into my journals. So on this day when I did this page, I was really feeling like I needed to make a little door in my journal, and so that's what we are doing today. So first off, I took a piece of white cardstock and I just stenciled this beautiful cathedral window stencil from Arlene, and I just stenciled one of them onto that paper. And now I'm going to do a little bit of lace cutting. Again, if you are new here, welcome. I love lace cuts in my pages. I do them often. I've got a whole lot of videos on here of me doing lace cuts, and this day I decided to do a lace cut combined with a little interactive element, which will be the door that's going to be opening and closing. So yeah, here we are. So I've taken a very sharp craft knife and I'm just following the lines loosely. I'm not trying to do all of the cuts exactly as the stencil is, because it's quite a weathered look stencil. There's a lot of little raggedy edges, excuse me. So it would be very hard to cut this stencil exactly. So I'm just kind of using it as a guide, but not getting too hung up if it's not exact, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've got everything cut out, and now I'm just going to fussy cut my little window and color it. So I've got Marlene's Mud Fight and Tobacco, and I think I use a little bit of sand as well. And I'm just going to use my already dirty sponge that I had the black on, and I'm just doing like a motley effect all over the paper or all over the window, and I'll do that on both sides. And when I'm done, I'll probably give it a little dry. So I know it doesn't look very pretty while it's down on the backing sheets, but when you lift it, it actually does look like a weathered look wooden window frame, which I quite enjoyed. Giving it a good dry, because now I will mount it onto a piece of transparency sheet. So I've got my double-sided tape, and I'm just taping as much as I can where the cuts are thick enough for me to squeeze a little piece of double-sided tape on. I do that. And then I've got it mounted on my transparency sheets. I did cut that bit out where I had to lift up all of the backing from the double-sided tape, because I find it very frustrating to do, and I can imagine that watching somebody peel off the backing from double-sided tape must be very frustrating as well. Okay, I'm going in with some shades of blue. Started out with Heaven, Sky, this is Mermaid, and I think I've got Azure as well. And I'm just spreading that paint out in 3 spots. All of these colors just go in 3 spots. I am wetting my brush here and there to help that paint spread a bit. I love it when when it looks quite painterly, so you can still see the brush strokes. And now I'm just going to dry. I did add some other, I go back and forth with the blues until I'm happy with the blending. And now I'm going to look for a stencil. I found my favorite stencil. This is called the Deco Screen. And I'm just putting some paint down with my finger, putting the stencil over the top, and then I wipe the excess away with a wet baby wipe. It's called reductive stenciling. I do it on pretty much all of my pages. I love the look of it. I love how easy it is to get pattern down. I find this method far more time efficient than sponging through. I work quite fast normally when I work in my journals, and I just want to keep moving, and I find it quite frustrating to have to sponge through a stencil. Although I sometimes do it, it's just that I like this method better because it's easier. Okay, going in with a little bit of heaven, sky, and I'm just pressing my paintbrush down onto the page to make that really lovely organic shape. It's almost a square, but it's also round. I really love that shape, so I do it all the time, again, on my pages. It makes a very nice layered effect, especially if you go over the top of each other like I did here. So I just chose through 3 spots on my page, and I just kept making that same pattern over and over with the different colors. And it just makes a beautiful textured, blended, backgroundy kind of vibe. Okay, I've gone through all of my paper elements, collage papers, cardstock from Marlene, and I've selected a couple of flowers. Some of them I've trimmed from collage paper, some of them I popped out of the Paper Elements book, and I also found a little fairy in the cut and paste book. And so I've fussy cut all of them, and I've just placed them on my page loosely for now so I could see where everything is going to go. But first I wanted to stick on my little window to make sure I know where it's going to be, and I also wanted to make sure I've got my fairy down so I will know where she's going to be. I'm positioning her so that you can see her little eyes out the window. You can see how cute that is. And then I'm going to start gluing down my flowers. So they definitely do not end up where they were when I first placed them down. That's always the case, and that's okay. I don't mind that. It's that first auditioning that I do is just really to see if I have enough flowers. So now I'm gluing them down with Marlene sticky glue. I'm chopping some of them in half to make them fit, and so that top pink one on the right there, cut in half, and then the other one is at the bottom here on the left, and it just kind of ties it all together. So I like having some of them if I could have some kind of continuity. So some of them I'll have 2 of the same flowers, or like this one where I just cut it in half, just to show that it's still the same piece, or so everything feels a little bit more connected, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. I've also grabbed out a whole lot of leaves and leafy fronds, and I'm also placing them on my paper. And I also found these cute little acorns, and I thought, I don't know whenever I would use acorns, so let me stick a couple of them in here. And I thought that was quite cute. A little bit unexpected also, I think. So when you have this page and you open it and you have a look at it, there's always something extra to find, if that makes any sense. And I've also got a couple of flowers on the front of my window just to tie it all together. So I kind of had the idea of this fairy living in a castle that's a little bit overgrown with lots and lots of flowers, and there's flowers inside the castle and outside. So that's why I did a couple of flowers on the window on the outside as well. Okay, I'm using Marlene's paint pens, and I'm just adding some extra color and brightness to the flowers that are there. So I'm basically just boosting the colors that are already there. So if there's orange bit, I add more orange. If there's yellow, I add more yellow. I'm not trying to change the color of the flowers at all. I'm just going with what there is already. And then I'm going to do a little bit of black outlining just on some of these flowers and leaves. I didn't do all of them. Sometimes when you do the same thing on each and every element, it can start to look a little bit repetitive and boring. Marlene calls it stale, like stale bread. I think that's so funny. But yeah, I didn't want it to be stale. Now I'm just adding some more detail to my little fairy. And from far, she looks a little bit wonky, but up close, she turned out quite cute. And a little bit of Stabilo or pencil just around the edges to pop her off of the background. So there's a little bit of a shadow around her. And I'll also go in between the flowers, and I kind of look at where the flowers overlap and where there would be a natural shadow. Not that anything about this page is natural, but I do want to have it make sense still. I mean, if you're watching a fairy tale on TV, in a movie or whatever, it still looks real because of the shadowing and the highlights. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And of course, a little bit of Lumo Pink. So I'm just, again, boosting all of the colors. Not trying to change the colors. I'm just adding a little bit of brightness. So what happens with neon paints when you go over the top of the color, so yellow over yellow, what it does, it acts almost like a filter that you would use on Instagram to edit your photos with. It just makes it a little bit brighter without actually changing the color of what is underneath. I am heating this up to dry it, but I am being very careful not to heat up my little window because the transparency sheet will definitely buckle. So you'll see when I do heat up, sometimes I've got my hand over the top of that transparency sheet just to protect it from the heat. A little bit of highlights with white, and you can see how that just brightens everything and brings the page together. Now I've got my tiny hearts and stars that I've punched out using my hole punches, and I'm just adding a couple of gold stars, hearts, and tiny dots because she is a fairy and she definitely needs a little bit of sparkle around her. I found this little hello die cut from Arlene's Paper Elements book, and I thought it was really cute, so I thought I would just put it inside the window, so when you open the little window, the fairy is saying hello. And I thought that looked quite nice. Now I'm looking for a little quote. I'm using the new luxury paper quotes from Arlene. These are amazing. I love using them. They are such fun little quotes, but they also look really nice. These tied in really well because they've got a shiny surface. It tied in really, really well with the transparency sheet that's behind the window. So it just brings everything together. Little scribbly border around my words. And then I did think of adding a quote to the side of that window because it felt a little bit bare. But then I think I did get a quote, and then I put it down and I thought, no, it doesn't look quite right. So I pulled it off again, and then I decided I'm rather going to just add some black stamping because that was feeling a little black heavy on one side. So I got this stamp set from Arlene. I don't know what it's called, but I just used the little bubble one. And I'm just adding a little more black because I felt like the page needed a little bit more black to tie everything together because obviously I've got the black quote, but I didn't have much black anywhere else. Just darkening up the edges of my window. And of course, I'm going in with my glitter glue from Arlene. I am obsessed with these. I love adding them to all of my pages, and I'm determined to use them up before the tube dries. So I am using them quite often. That is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you do interactive elements in your journals and if you'll be trying this. And head over to the community tab and share your work. And I will see you again very soon. Okay, bye.